y'all, because we get ready to have the panel, so this is a good time for me to do this. So I say, hey sisters, and you say,
so sister.
And I'm getting ready to say it again because somebody ain't listening to me. And you say,
so sister.
And you say,
so sister.
See, I'm talking right. You know who I'm talking to. You act like you're with me. Look around and you want, yeah, you. So I do it so that I can get your attention. Because usually somebody's gonna be on the mic and I'll just walk over normally and I'll go, hey sister.
So sister.
That's my girl right there, she knows. And that's just so that y'all are paying attention. Because there's gonna be somebody other than me on the mic that's gonna have something really good to say. And y'all came to hear it. But if somebody else is chit-chatting, they gonna stop you from hearing, right? So when I say, hey sister, you say, so sister, that's to get your attention. That ain't to keep talking louder, right? Does it make sense that we say that, chat? Okay? So what we're about to do is have one prize giveaway, and then we're getting ready to start learning about how to be even more of a powerful woman than you all already are, okay? But right now we're going to do this ticket drawing. Blue ticket. Ticket number 1, 2, 5, 9, 3, 2. Oh, I hate that when that happens.
Check mine.
3. So I'm gonna say it again. 1, 2, 5. We got a winner in the house. I thought, wow, I'm doing this event every month, and women are learning a lot. But then, who's doing something for the brothers?
Right.
And I tried Brother Spokesman, and it wasn't successful. I did. I gave Brother Spokesman my best ditch effort.
Don't give up. We
can try this again. We're going to come together on that? Okay, because I want to break, okay? So we're going to do. See, here's what's getting ready to happen. Let me just tell you a little something about this strong, unbreakable black woman. So she's getting ready to retire, and I'm not gonna steal her thunder. I know. Let's go ahead. But what she don't know, I've been trying to get her for a long time anyhow. So now she's gonna have a little bit of free time. I'm gonna snatch that time and put her right next to me, because she's my mentor. I mean, I look at Stella and I go, how do you do all the things that you do? And still, she spends a lot of time with her grandkids. A lot of time with her grandkids. And that's me. I got 2 grandsons, and I'm trying to make sure I can snatch them and spend as much time and still be able to do me. You know, you don't want to lose yourself because you're working hard. You know, we work hard, we want to play hard, but we also want to remember that we have responsible kids that we have to be a role model for. So my grandsons I told my daughter I wanted to have another girl. She said, you have a girl, that's me. And now you have 2 sons, that's your grandsons. So you got the picture there. I said, okay, I got it, because I wanted a little girl. She said, you got your girl. So Stella, when I met Stella, and I started looking at her as like me. She reminded me of me, because she's a CEO, but she also is very involved with her grandkids. And so I like looking up to you. I'm proud to be able to look up to you. So with that said, let's learn a little bit more about Stella. So Stella Whitney-West. We're going to welcome Stella. Stella is the Chief Executive Officer of North Point Health and Wellness, which is a huge company. Formerly known as Pilot City. That's right.
Yes.
North Point Health and Wellness Center is a medical, dental, behavioral health, and human service agency focused on providing whole person care. Thank you, Stella, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Tracey. Tracy, for the introduction.
Incorporate strength, courage, and determination into the line of work that you do in relationships?
Well, first of all, I have to recognize my staff over there, Cynthia and Peggy. And then I have to say that how I incorporate it is into my team, into my staff. I've always believed that, because sometimes people think that because you are the quote-unquote boss, that, right, everything, comes through you, you do everything, and I'm like, I learned a long time ago, that's too much work. Amen. I want to be able to, right, amen, I want to be able to, come home, enjoy, something like that, but the most important thing is empowering your team, your staff, at all levels of the organization. Sometimes people think that the most important people are the people that are closest to the top, and I disagree. Everybody's important. I don't care where you are within the organization, and you always, if you're going to be a strong leader, you recognize that first, and you keep the door open for people to come in and that you are accessible to them. I remember one of my staff used to say, why you got all these people coming in anytime to see you, talk, and you always, and I said, because here's the secret. I much rather know if there's an issue or a problem. I want to hear about it first. I want to hear about it, and North Point has union as well. So I opened the door to the union on a regular basis. Sometimes we would have fights and arguments, and that was okay. I want to know about it first. Right? I don't want to hear about it in a meeting. I don't want to see it in the Spokesman. I don't want to see it right? I want to hear about it first. Give me the opportunity to, do some problem solving and maybe, and I may not be able to get to all of it, but at least when it came in the door, it was this big, and when it goes out the door, it's just this small.
Yeah, thank you.
Passing this on now.
Yes, you can. I'll come back to you. So the next distinguished panelist here we have is Leticia Alvarez. Don't call her by my daughter's birth name. A student advocate and dedicated youth worker with a heart for empowering and inspiring young minds. Leticia, tell us more about your title. What does that mean? The education and work experience in public school sector? Ooh.
that thing called public schools, right? So I am Leticia, and first I'd like to thank you, Tracy, for having me. I stand on the shoulders of some really amazing people. One that's not here anymore, but I know we got a cheer for her, and that's my grandmother, Norma Williams.
Amen.
I also stand on the shoulders of my great-grandmother, Leona Q. Newman. And so I have really big shoes to fill. But I was really hard to fill those shoes. I heard a word today, and that was something. Thank you. And that was empowering. And I think that that's the foundation of the work that I do with students, that I do with youth. Our babies are hurting. Our communities are hurting. And so I think about the privilege that I had having a community in which I came from of successful Black women, and that's not seen in our public schools. So who is supporting our babies in there as they're being excluded from their learning, as they're being excluded from classrooms, as they're leaving those buildings traumatized day in and day out? And as a Black woman working in that system, I not only endure what the students are telling me, but I'm experiencing those same things. It's a system of oppression. It's a system that's not built for us, and nor will it be. And so what I would love to continue to do is empower our students to continue to work. Because until there's more of us in the classrooms, until there's more of us operating those systems and making it more equitable for our babies so that we have a chance, then what? And so what I started to do is I worked in this business about 16 years. I worked in education. And I noticed that I was still making minimum wage. My voice was very minimal at the table. And I was not respected, seen, valued, or heard. So I started to go back to school. I said, I'm gonna go get what I gotta get. And those are some of the things I heard from my mentors. I said, because if I go and get that degree, then I'm unstoppable. If I can show my babies that at 33 with 2 children working full time, that I can do school, that you can do this and we're gonna do this together. And so they're not alone in their journey. Everybody's journey looks different. I'm proud of where I am. And I'm proud to be here with you sisters today. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm proud of you, my daughter. Now we have Miss Kenya McKnight Ahad. She is a bad sister, along with these 2 that are here right now. So Kenya is a prominent economic leader. She's a philanthropist, an investor, and real estate owner, developer. She is the founder and CEO of the Black Women's Wealth Alliance and the visionary behind the Zara, is that how I pronounce it? A holistic wellness incubator hub in North Minneapolis. Thank you so much, Kenya, for joining us on the panel this afternoon. So let's talk about your education and how it set the foundation, your upward global trajectory has gotten you with the pursuit of the MBA at St. Mary's University in Novo Sectria Global Economics and Corporate Management. So you kind of started there in a whole different lane to kind of where you ended today, or where you're not even ended, because I don't even see you where you're going yet. So I think you're just at a resting point right now, but I know you got a lot more to think about. But just let's talk about that, how your education kind of got you where you're at right now.
Yep, I'm grateful to be here. Good afternoon. I'm wrapping it up, Tracey. I'm in my legacy phase right now.
All right.
And I would say foundationally, the education is really from my great-grandmother. So ancestor love, work, guidance is so important for me. And so I'm originally from Kankakee, Illinois, a small city, K3. Okay. All right, K3 in the house. All right. So they call me McKnight. My great-grandmother, Memphis Tucker, she raised about 5 generations of us. In fact, just got back home this morning, coming from there to, visit her land. And in that, so I have a bunch of cousins, right, like 50-something first cousins. I don't have a first name where I come from. I'm identified as a McKnight, that's it. And I grew up, even though I lived here in Minnesota since I was 6, we went home every summer. And so, and you got to be around these folks in a segregated city where I didn't know I was black until I moved to Minnesota. I didn't know what that was because we just was who we was. And so I didn't know that it was even a thing like race. So, and so these folks are from the South. Of course, I'm the 2nd generation born outside of the South, so they're all from Mississippi and all those places. And, but she worked hard. She had 2 children, and her 2 children had 50-something babies. So we just spurred everywhere. So, but growing up, my great-grandmother was the neighborhood candy store lady, so she made her own hog-head cheese, corn ice cream, pecan pies, penny candies, and there was a bunch of us, so we had to work. And so we worked in her candy store, we worked in her garden, we were scaling fish at 7. We had to work, there was a bunch of us. So I had a paper route and was in vacation Bible school every summer. So that was my life, and we was responsible because she was involved in community. In the church, we actually moved to Kankakee with the church. So that's who my great-grandmother was, and she took care of everybody. And I was just visiting her house. I ended up buying her house a couple years ago from a 4th generation owner of the house. And the house is so tiny. And I said, how we don't fit in here? I mean, the rooms are like a closet. I'm like, there's a bunch of us, you know? And I just can't believe how small this house is. And it was a whole bunch of us. And I said, Grandma made it work. And we called her Grandma. Because my grandma's so quiet, she was our auntie until we got older. Because her mom was this powerful little small lady with the gold teeth who always called the Holy Ghost every Sunday in the front row in Memphis with her fan, getting fanned. She was an usher in the church, so we had to go. And giving was important. Yeah. My grandma had a bag full of pennies that she brought to church every Sunday, so everybody had to give some money. And while we tried to duck out and go to the candy store around the corner with the pennies, we got caught a lot. But Grandma made us give in the church. She made us serve. Grandma made us responsible and to care about not only our family and ourselves, but the community. Right. So foundationally, that's who I am and what shaped me. Nice. So the academic is a bonus. That was foundation. Okay.
Nice. Well, but don't let that go, because I'm going to start with you on the next question. But I do want to just say something about that small house. I get it. I went back to the house I was raised in. Everything does look small. I think they started building houses bigger, you know. So now all the houses back in the day that we were all crammed into look like little cracker box houses. And as far as that hog-head cheese, my beloved late husband, Robert, he had me go, he loved hog-head cheese. So I didn't know nothing about it. I'm a northern girl. He's from Mississippi. So I go to the store one day and I buy him some hog-head cheese. And I'm thinking, I'm going to try it. So northern girls, what do we do with our salami? We fry it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hog-head cheese looks like meat. Then you put it in the frying pan. My honey said, boy, my poor wife. She just don't know. But you talked about it melts, it just melts, it is not, it's cheese, it's not meat. It just looks like meat because it's brown. But it's actually cheese, and you can't fry cheese. That ain't gonna work too good for you. But you talked, Kenya, about your grandmother having you learn economics at an early age, because she was having, that's a lesson. So every time, so we're giving money for one reason, but what we're really doing is we're learning a lesson on how to give. So let's talk about that, on how do you empower black women economically and help them foster a legacy of generational wealth?
Yeah, thank you. I do it as best as I can through my work. And in my work, one of the most important things is to inspire hope and to normalize who we are by understanding us, accepting us for where we are, and investing in our aspirations and dreams to build the life we imagine for ourselves, one step at a time. And that's really the best thing that we can do. We don't do everything, but that much we do. So our work, what do I mean by that? In my work, the only additional language I speak outside of the standard English is Ebonics.
That works.
Right? I don't translate nothing else, just Ebonics.
I feel you.
Yeah, right? Little pig Latin. Those who know little pig Latin. Living in an environment like Minnesota, so coming from where I'm from, and even though I grew up here, I feel that I'm more culturalized by my Illinoisan culture, which is different than what I've experienced here in Minnesota. No matter how many black people here, the culture of black is different here than what I'm normally used to, from the way we cook, the way we talk, the way we move, and just the way we're comfortable with being who we are, without compromise or apology. We're not a program or, a highlight. We just is and are where I'm from. And that has never changed in me, no matter, even though I was raised here. But I'm challenged in this environment about what black is, who is black, and how it needs to show up. It's a program or a process here when I'm just trying to be me. So for me, I created a whole organization based on that. Where I work with, deal with, understand, talk with, and support and walk with black women from that premise, number one. And that's, to me, one of the most important things because of how we're made to feel in an environment that tells you you have to be everything else except for who you are. So that's my number one thing. And two is providing whatever information I know as best as I can to translate it from my experience navigating and working out here in a way that makes sense for how we think and how we are, so that we're able to incorporate that to be successful ourselves in building and accessing the things we need. So I'm a translator.
Okay.
So I say, I ain't got no check, this white people check, so let me tell you how you get it. You gotta do X, Y, and Z, right? And I'll just break down complex language, processes, all of that, and say, here's what it means. Like I translate for my mom every day. It's not a comprehension issue for her. It's just, she might not understand all this language and stuff. They like, what does that mean? It means this simply, Mom. So translating language, translating that to black people is also very important. We speak this English, we don't think it the same, so we have to translate. So I'm a translator. And thirdly, using the small money we have to also say, all right, I can't support every single step, but here is something I have, and here's some things that I think will be helpful in you meeting your goals. So I might have $1,000, I might have $5,000, I'll introduce you to this person, blah, blah, blah. Here's some tools that you can use to be successful. And you determine what that success is. My job isn't to determine success. My job is to help provide access. You define what success is. So that's how I show up in supporting black women in their aspirations.
Nice. And one of the things that early on, before we got the panel discussion started, Kenya and I talked about when she mentioned that she introduces people. And I want you ladies to think while you're listening to this wonderful panel here, put yourself in the shoes of where you're at when they are talking about things. So if you have limited money, but you're able to feed your family, you're being the CEO of your family. You're being the person that these ladies are representing. So continue to think about who you are in your life as they're telling you about their journey and how you fit into your life now and how you fit into your life as you continue with what your journey is, right? But the other thing is to talk about access. So relationships is a big thing, and I was talking to Kenya about that. So if you gotta build relationships, and I'm gonna tell you right now, me being the CEO, and I don't think I mentioned the fact that I actually am the publisher and CEO of the Minnesota Spokesman Reporter, the oldest black newspaper in the state of Minnesota. I know she mentioned she don't want to find out about her news first in my paper. So we're going to try to make sure that don't happen. Bad news. We're going to talk about the good news. But it's the relationship. So know that access, which she was given to people, is priceless. You cannot move if you don't know nobody. There you go. You cannot move if you don't have relationships. Because relationships open doors. My grandfather, who started this paper in 1934, befriended Hubert Humphrey as Hubert Humphrey befriended my grandfather. That opened doors. Doors that he could not have opened without that relationship, because he was a black man in 1934. So know the importance in access and in Minnesota. That's why he moved from Kansas City to come to Minnesota, where he thought he had more opportunity. And he found out when he got here, He has more of the same.
That's right.
But it's just important that you understand what Kenya said, okay?
Yeah.
So now, Leticia, many of your abilities to share boundless industries and creativity in your work with your students and educators, they all know that about you. You got this strength, you got this drive, you love the children that you represent in your work for. Can you give us some examples and how your energy and creativity impacts your students and their outlook?
So something I heard today was language, and in the building, like Minnesota, I'm here in Minnesota too, that Minnesota nice, that passive aggressive, smile in your face, but it looks real gross on the other side. But being able to show up in my building and just speak the language to my babies that they understand, and that feels really empowering to me. I'm not here to play, and they understand what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Or like I was gone at a circle training 4 days this week, and we talked about relationship. One of my babies said, "Where was my peacemaker when I needed you? You was gone." And so while I was away, my babies were getting referrals, getting suspended, getting pushed out of the building. But the person that understood their language, regardless of if it was words or behaviors, wasn't there to advocate on their behalf. Wasn't there to hear them and to help them process their experience, because oftentimes we have to just keep on moving. But sit in that feeling, process that. We can do that together where you can tell it raw. You can come in, be you, baby, be you in my room, please. Because I don't expect you to be anybody else but you. And we have to conform in spaces. I had somebody even ask me, "Why you talk like that?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm just being me. And I love being me." Or like right now, I'm walking in the bed, I'll be like, "Twin, where have you been?" It's also staying youthful and staying fun and staying of all things free. And there's a thing of freedom that I'm learning to be, where I get to just show up and I get to live my life for me. And for the babies that I'm serving, and how liberating that is for them to know that they can just show up, but they also can be amazing, beautiful, black, and flavorful, because that's how we show up, right?
Yes.
I love it. I love it. That's why they don't want you to be gone. Stella,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have a couple of examples where past experience shaped your ability to be strong in the moment, courageous, and or when you are unstoppable?
Ooh.
Wow, I have, a lot of that. So I would say, going back to my childhood, so I was born and raised in St. Paul, Rondo neighborhood. And, okay. Original, and still live there. But my childhood, and a lot of people are surprised by that, because they say, "Oh, you know, Minnesota," particularly if you're a black person and you come in, you're going like, "Ooh, where's the community?" Whereas I didn't feel that, because I grew up in the community, and so in Rondo neighborhood, and I remember that when my elementary school, most of the children that I went to school with were black, you know, and most of the teachers were white. I never forgot when we got our first black teacher, Mr. Zachary. Oh, y'all remember Mr. Zachary? All right. Yeah, Rondo. Mr. Zachary was a big man, right? And when he came in, it was like, there was no nonsense. He kicked in the door, and he was, collecting receipts, and we used to listen, Mr. Zachary would just be talking to folks, and he was not playing. And then it took me a while to appreciate, his style, but I knew that the reason that he was so hard on us is because he wanted us to be the best. And he wasn't one of those that was just going to pass you just cause. If he was going to make sure that you knew the material. So I grew up in that. Right? And so, what was the question again?
It was just, you're talking about you being unstoppable, and some of your examples from your past experiences shaped your ability to be that woman.
Not only that, people, when they say that they were, came from a single household, mine was my father. My father raised me and my brothers. There were 6 of us, and my father and my mother got a divorce early, and my mother took my 3 sisters who were babies, and I stayed with my dad and my 2 brothers. So my dad had that influence on me, and you know, Dad was raised on a farm in Oklahoma. He didn't play, and everybody had a job to do, and we were the original latchkey kids, right? So it was like, but we had that supportive neighborhood. So we would come home from school. My dad was working. He was an auto mechanic. And we listened to Kenya talking about, you know, having that home-based business where that was my dad. He worked at International Harvester, but he built a garage in the backyard. And so everybody in the neighborhood, Thomas Whitney, you know, kept their car going. He always had that. But I learned that from my dad about being a strong woman. And also what I learned from my dad was that the support that he had for us in the schools. And one lesson that I never forgot, and I was one of the kids that always was in the accelerated class. I was a little smarty pants, right? And so I had this one English teacher, and she was a racist somebody, right? And I would always ask, how come we aren't reading any books by black authors? And she would say, because their books have profanity in them, the material is bad. She had all those kinds of things. So I went home and told my dad. My dad went up to the school. Next thing I know, we got books by black authors. Right. He was like, no, you're not trying that, right? He let her know. But then she got back at me because she gave me a failing grade. My dad went back up to the school and put the he said, this is not a reflection of my daughter, this is a reflection of you. And you need to change, he told me, you need to change his grade. Right? So,
I love it. Now, you know what, don't set it down, because that just is a good segue right into the next question.
Okay.
So what is your super strength? So how do you use it? Because you talked about your dad helping you to overcome the objectives you dealt with this white woman who was trying to downplay you. How do you use it when it comes across your giants that you're dealing with in opposition to the corporate section that you deal with on a regular basis? Any journal advice for others?
Ooh, so you mean the corporate and the county?
Yeah, well, yeah, they almost kind of the both. They yeah,
and the commissioners and all of that.
All of that.
Like that.
All of that.
Yeah. Because I'm always faithful and true to who I am. I'll tell people that now you can, you know, make adjustments depending on the audience, right? So if you see me speaking in front of the county board, which is televised, so I was telling my staff, like, look, do not forget that this is televised, right? You're gonna be on TV. Because I took me a minute, and then my relatives say, I saw you on TV. I wasn't on TV. Yes, you were. And you was. I was like, oh yeah, I was talking to the commissioners. But always stay true to yourself and to your purpose, right? You can translate. Sometimes you have to speak different languages and to get your point across so that they understand you, right? But make sure that the message is true, number one, no matter what. And to understand that a big part of your purpose, and I see that in mine and the work that I do, it is about creating the bridge and connecting so that the resources are coming into the community, right? And to make sure that how, and I always say this about the county, how they show up in the community, because I remind them like, ooh, excuse me, stand back, hold up. Understand that when you show up in the community, these are the people that you you serve. You ain't coming in eating right, and don't forget that. Don't forget that. Sometimes they do, and then you just have to remind them. And also know that your salary comes from property taxes. Sometimes they think that poor folks or folks in communities of color don't pay taxes. Shut the front door, yes they do.
Yes, they do.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so remember that when you show up, because, right, it's like, oh, okay, excuse me. Yeah, I'm paying for you and your family. So don't be,
Don't get it twisted.
Don't get it twisted. You are a what? Public servant.
Yes.
You are paid by public dollars. Right? So.
Thank you. You did real good, you did. And I also want to say that she's spot on when it comes to be true to yourself and make sure the message is always accurate. Because I'm going to tell you something. I had somebody the other day say something about, well, they are upset about something going on and they thought maybe it had something to do with me and my paper and some other organizations. I said, I don't care what they say about me, because everything I do is true and I'm accurate and I'm good to people who I'm good to, and those that need to hear from me, hear from me. And I am just a messenger that is fearless. But if I'm true to what I do, and I stand for what I stand for, and I fall for nothing, then I'm good with what everybody else says. Because I can stand and be unbreakable. All right?
And you know what else is important about that, Tracy, is that you never have to change for a different audience. You know, some people are like, oh, I got this speech for this. It's like, no, it's the same. Right? And as you get older, as I'm getting older, sometimes it's like, I don't have to worry about, okay, what did I say today? It's the same message.
Same. Your memory don't have to fail you. Because we know what you said, you meant what you said.
And it's true.
And it's the truth. Amen.
Yes,
All right. So, Leticia, what fuels you? Where do you get your zeal, my darling?
Well, do you see it? I mean, I had no other option. And I was just sitting here thinking, I'm like, that's my mama. So, like, when you ask me what fuels me, one, you're like the best role model a daughter could ever have. I did not pay. And so, like, I aspire to be a lot like you. But I also think that I had a mom, y'all heard her talking, like, I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And so there's that healthy fear in me of making her proud, making my grandmothers proud, making you sisters proud because you are my village, making my ancestors proud. And so I think that that's what fuels me initially. When I sit in these meetings with administrators and people from the Minnesota Department of Education, and we're talking about our black and brown babies and our graduation rates, and they say we're at the bottom. We're under Mississippi. Our babies are not graduating at healthy rates. So when I see that, I get knots in my stomach, and there's days where they ask me, well, what do you think? I have no words. But what I have is action, so let's get to it. And so how do I continue to disrupt? And I'm not going to tell you the things that you want to hear, because I'm not going to show up and be a good Negro. But I'm going to show up and I'm going to be what I got to be for these babies to make sure that they're getting the access, the resources, and the tools in their toolbox so that they can get what they need and be seen as such. And so that's what fuels me.
All right. I love it. Kenya, give us some insight as to how you maintain strength and model courage as a leader in a predominantly white male industry.
Yes, ma'am.
I was born from the fire. Born and raised, and no, I'm just joking.
Are you going to go into what's that, color purple now?
I am one of the women though, one of the spirits though. It's hard to deter me from anything I'm focused on. But before I say that, I do want to just go back to one thing, if I could, about Miss Stella. So I had the opportunity of, I think my first board role was I served on North Point Health and Wellness Board for 6 years as a secretary. And they don't know about being a secretary, but Miss Stella made me the secretary. No, I got voted as, and that was a really good opportunity for me to grow and develop as a young person. And it really sometimes was difficult because even in my life growing up here, I grew up mostly on the north side, but also grew up through what I would call the hood sector, right? So my house was the party house, the house got shot up, everybody partied there. Just, I never could go to sleep until 5 in the morning, because they still partying, and just, it was chaotic, really, and it had an impact, right? And I think the environment in which we grew also stifled my human development. I too was on top of spelling bees and double promotions in school, so my brilliance, my intellect was never the issue, but the circumstances that surrounded my life certainly affected me as a young person. I was really angry. I used to have to fight a lot to defend my siblings because they got color eyes and they're lighter than me, so everybody thought we were light skinned, and we could be Thundercats, this is true, but and so it was really hard. My mom was, it was 5 of us, we didn't have a lot of family up here, so it was by herself, so it was a lot of struggle. And so when I did try to get involved in community, as a 20-something-year-old, because I've been a part of Robin Broadway, busting in, bringing into Freeman's, Target, just all that.
It's a bad kid.
No.
I would just say that I was just trying to figure stuff out.
Yep.
And
There you go.
I'm an original cookie cart kid, so I had those habits from my mom, so I sold cookies on Broadway. I was a little hustling, selling candy on the vans, all of that, and just, because I had been taking care of my mother's children for a long time, so I'm the matriarch of my family too. So it's just so much, right? And you think about what that means for young people and how that stifles sometimes your language, your skills, who you showing up. I'm talking about, and they're like, please don't invite her back to me. I didn't know how to operate in what they call community. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what the urban league was until I was in my 20s, I wasn't part of those systems. I was part of the gangs and street life, so that was different. So trying to interface in these other settings was different. I don't know who the elders are. What is that, and you know what I'm saying? I know who the OGs are, so they're different language. The women I grew up with was queen pins. They sold dope, people, they in prison, So it's a different life interfacing with this community sector. And so they called me ghetto all the time, everything. So it was just a lot to grow through. Even when I ran for office, I didn't even know what a lace front was. I used to put gel and water on the y'all, trying to just press it down. And on election day, my auntie was like, "Oh, Keon, I think you're supposed to cut that." I was just focused on the finish line, okay? So, I was running, but it was the finish line for me. All right, so my lace front was coming up, and it was shiny, and, sparkly. Nobody told me. Shame on them, but I made it to the finish line, all right? So it's been all that, all right? And so I was the fire chick showing up. I was angry. All these people who talking about they doing stuff for community, they leaders. I'm like, where were you? I don't know you. Who do you lead? Because we struggled a lot. We hurt a lot. I don't know nothing about who y'all is, what y'all do. I didn't benefit from none of that. We was in shootouts. Pastor Paul fed us. So, it was a different world. So I'm only saying all that to say, trying to engage now as a 47-year-old, right? So now I'm a multi-millionaire. Now I own real estate. Now I do all these other things. Now I've helped over 5,000 women. Now I've invested over $2 million in my own now I do all these other things over the last 23 years of learning and the last 10 years of being an entrepreneur. But the process of getting there required me to develop my own language and skills and learn how to navigate, even amongst black people with classism. I wasn't educated enough. I didn't come from no family of what they recognize as money or importance, you know, so the social classism was real even amongst black people for me. Before I could even get to navigating white folks, I had to navigate black people. And so it was a journey. It still is, and the underdog, and now I'm what they might consider leading.
Yes.
And that isn't because I was striving for that. I was only striving to be better and to learn. But opportunities like what Stella gave me to be on her board helped me begin to grow in a way where I could learn, you know, how to participate on the board. I understood what a budget was for the first time. And even though I was cutting up on the board half of the time, Stella like, Lord, you little baby. She worked with me and helped me grow. And it was examples of women like her, though, and I want to hold her up as the first woman-owned CEO of North Point Health and Wellness, which is important as a resource that was created from our community. But I also want to say that how I watched her leverage her power to build resources was, and I don't know if we all even know this, that the whole transformation of the Penn and Plymouth corner, that came under her leadership. She transformed that corner, right? And I sat on the board and helped and watched her do that. I watched her push the county to say, Estes Funeral Home has relocated twice already. This third time will be their last. And we're going to pay for that fully. And that happened. They will own this land their own again. And we're going to make sure they don't move again.
Amen.
I watched her say the old McDonald's parking lot that been vacant for 20-some years would now be a parking lot for North Point Health and Wellness, a parking ramp that will have businesses there that black people will own. And today we have that very thing. And even a new complex, North Point Health and Wellness. So as you walk away in your transition of the legacy, I'm saying that I've watched this woman, at least in my time there, use her power to transform and invest in economic development in our community that is now more legacy. Thank you, Michelle. And don't hand it off, so you can just step right into my working for you.
And certainly, Stella, I mean, you don't find a gym like you often. And the thing that's so powerful is when we're in position to make a difference. Make a difference. Don't just look out for your own pocketbook.
Amen.
Because what we need is people that are in the position to make a difference, to make that difference. So we commend you and thank you so much. That's why I look up to you. You are so there. But Kenya, now you got your own Black Women Wealth Alliance going on. So we talk about, you know, getting black women or black businesses on that corner of Plymouth and Penn area owned by that. So explain how to get involved in developing the vision of the Holistic Wellness Incubator Hub and give us the insight on how this venture uplifts African American women-owned businesses.
Yes, thank you. Zara, an integrated root center. So it's located on Fremont and West Broadway. Formerly, the building is formerly known as home to the Brick and Bread Cafe, so I'm the owner of that building. And I transformed it into an incubator space for Black women entrepreneurs who are in the beauty, wellness, some retail, and we're working on the food space now. And in that, it provides, and we have one of the leaders here, Ms. Aisha, who's our lead Holistic Wellness Healer of Nora, Holistic Wellness is Todd. She's CEO of her own company, so we're all business owners. She's our leading massage therapist, and she does about 20 different years. She can tell you a lot more about what it means to her and the other 10 women who are there. And we provide affordable space for them to operate their companies. I think everybody pays less than $500 a month. We provide wraparound support, administratively, financially, culturally, to help support them in, their ability to be successful personally first, and then in their business as they look to grow and expand. And the goal is that they can stay for 3 to 5 years, and then a new group needs to come along so that we don't monopolize, but we can grow continuously, more folks in the industry. So right now we have a capacity for 14, and we received $3 million to expand our complex so that we can have 25 to 30 women, which will be doing over the next 2 years.
Well, I'm loving it. So I love the incubator idea because it really does give people a home to start with, and hopefully, you gotta really work you gotta mine your land. Yes. So if you get in there, you can't get in there and get complacent. So one of the things that I never stop doing, and I can't stop thinking about what's next. So in my industry, I got to keep up with technology. I got to keep up with the website. Okay, now what's next? And I got to keep up with social media in order to stay engaged with my readers. Now what's next? Oh, now podcasts is out. Okay, I don't know nothing about podcasts. Here we go. Okay, now what's next? But you gotta always think about what's next. So if you get an opportunity to get into an incubator style office, don't just rest your morals there. Think about what's next. I've watched sisters leave here. Wendy Puckett with Soro is one of the sisters that talks about Sister Spokesman all the time. So she started here as a vendor, like you see vendors in the room today. And then she ended up building a clientele. And she took her clientele list and she opened up a storefront inside of a grocery store. So she kind of kept her expenses down by renting out of a store. And now she got her own little spot. So you grow because you figure out what's next. So when you get these opportunities that Kenya's giving you, if you take advantage of it, get in there, get set up, start learning what she's got to teach you, and then start thinking about what's next, so that you can continue to grow. Because things change and evolve. Something happens to another, heaven forbid, another pandemic. What's next? So you have to really start to think about that. Okay, Miss T, can you share with us a personal experience that enhanced your strength and courage? We kind of already touched on that maybe, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to let you answer that, but I'm going to go to the next one since you did kind of talk about that a little bit, and it also asks who's your role model. But what makes you unbreakable? How would you inspire others to grow in strength and courage?
That's a hard one, because in my line of work I talk a lot about generational curses and the things that we've adapted from the people that came before us. And I think there's also generational blessings that have come that Black women, we haven't had the opportunity to lay down and fold. We don't get the opportunities to stop and pause. Life has to keep on going. We are caregivers, we are servers, we're entrepreneurs, we're mothers, we're sisters. And so I think that I get the strength from a lot of people before me. But Mom, you also said something, just to go back to like what gives me strength and courage? And you brought up the pandemic. I remember being in my home, teaching from a computer screen and trying to reach the homes of our families. But also during that time, I remember seeing my city burning down. I remember being on front lines trying to fight for George Floyd, Dante Wright. And so when I got back into the classroom, I started to look at my students, and all I saw was Dante Wright. So I had to continue to find the courage in me to make sure that my babies were going to be okay. That, like the sisters in the room have done for me, how do I continue to make sure that they know our history, but they also know their worth and their value. And so, like, I had to break and crumble. I broke. and I crumbled. But I found strength in healing, and I found strength in embracing my history, and embracing my babies and our community. And that's what keeps me going, so that there's not another Dante Wright, that we can start to minimalize the George Floyds and Philando Castillos right here on Minnesota land. And so that's what continues to keep me going and gives me courage.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, I got a ton more questions, but I'm running out of time, I was just told. So I got time for 2 questions from the audience. If anybody's got questions, I got a method. I normally have you write them down, but we're not going to do that since I'm only taking 2 questions. So let me get over here so we can hear it on the mic since we're recording our session. Okay. What you said today, tell them your name and then what's your question.
My name is Janelle. I'm from Freedom from the Streets nonprofit organization. I want to ask you, how can I get into integrated, because I've been struggling for 5 to 6, our birthday will be 6 years. We did that fight for George Floyd. We was the first ones that was outside. We was the first one that was for homeless people, for their camp that was out there. We ran that camp that was outside with 400 people this way and 400 people this way. We did that. And also I made a book with people's stories in it that tells the real truth about homeless people. I was homeless and it had nothing to do with drugs. So I get tired of these stereotypes that people have on people. But I need to get into somewhere where I can be able to do my business, so I can be able to help the people that's outside, that's homeless and formerly homeless, and people on the verge of homelessness.
Yeah.
Oh, freedom from the streets. Okay.
Freedom from the streets.
Okay. All right, great. So you want to address that?
Yeah, I would just say more than happy to connect with you afterwards.
Okay, great. Okay, I got time for one more question. Good job. Hello, darling. How you doing? All right, tell me who you with and what's your question. Your name and what's your question.
My name is Cindy, and I just want to know how you as Black women assess your worth. How do you know your worth? How do you assess your worth?
Okay, so let's all 3 of you answer that question, because that's going to be how you assess your worth individually, and then I got one closing question for all 3 of you, and then we're going to have to wrap it up.
Okay, so, they're going to okay, so, and assess it. Well, so I'm a grandmother. I have 5 grandchildren. So, and one of the things that I tell my daughter, because sometimes she gets a little jealous, and I remember that feeling, and I remind her when her grandfather, my dad, who was the strict disciplinarian, all of a sudden when she came on the scene, he was just like putty in her hands, and he, she could do no wrong, and he would always remind me, that's your child. She's my grandchild. I can spoil her all day long, but when she out in the community, they not looking at me, they looking at you. So, that's that. But, tell me the question again. I want to make sure I answer it specifically.
Okay.
How do you know your self-worth, and how do you assess your self-worth? How do you know your worth?
I know my worth because I know where I'm from. I know my worth because I grew up, and I talked about it in the Rondo community in St. Paul, where we were told that we had worth. And there were people in my neighborhood, there were mothers, there were fathers, there were families that took care of us. I said we were the original latchkey kids, but because of the neighborhood, we knew our worth, we knew that. And then also when I look at my children and my grandchildren, I mean, there's nothing better than to know, especially lessons that, and those of you who aren't grandparents yet, let me just tell you, when you get to that other side, you're gonna be like, ooh, right? Because lessons and things that I taught my children, I start to see them in my grandchildren. I'm like, ooh, hallelujah. You know, it's like dad and my grandparents, but when you start to see it,
Yes.
and then you're like, wow, right? Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. Yes.
Did I get the answer there for you? Thank you.
I'm reminded of my worth by simply sharing space and energy with the sisters in this room today.
All right.
Like, we are queens, and so like making sure that I submerge myself in these spaces more often to know that I am worthy, I am important, and I am here. So thank you guys for sharing your energy with me today. I also get it from my students that come back and they're like, I am because of you, Ms. Alvarez. And so they're a reminder of the work that I do, and it may not be tomorrow that we see that change, right? Because everyone's journey looks different and growth is something. But when they come back 2 and 3 years later, or we stay in contact, or they're reaching out and they're asking questions, that reminds me of my work.
Just a really quick follow-up, sorry to shift the energy, but I was thinking maybe other people want to know too about the incubator thing. So my incubator is specialized for those industries, and we are at capacity. Interested in ours would be just to sign up on our newsletter. We'll let you know when things come available, but in general, I use things like co-working spaces and stuff like that. The idea is to just get in the industry around other people and network, and you can do that sometimes through co-working spaces, because like the COVID, the women, just because they have all these workshops and relationships and other stuff going on, so it may not necessarily be them, but it's about who you might connect to in that environment. And so you just put yourself in those situations and ask questions, and just keep asking questions and tell people what you need and let them figure out how to support you. And stay open. And that's the thing. Don't be tied to the outcomes necessarily. And if you already got it figured out, can't nobody help you. Even if you know the answer, you might find out something different. And just, that's how I work, and I would just encourage, but I'm still happy to connect. But I want to just put that out there in general. I think for me, it's so knowing my worth looks different. When I'm in a relationship with a man, I'm still figuring out some of that stuff. It's like, woo! So, and I'm good, but it's been some little growth there, right? Because sometimes it be a little extra where you think your worth is based on him not being nothing. So, or you don't see enough of yourself. So kind of finding the middle ground in a healthy space where I'm good at knowing who I am as a person, as a woman, but also as someone who is the very thing I'm seeking, and learning how to heal and come to a middle ground with myself, and understanding the complexities of who we both are in the space and the value we bring and what we're after together. So that's a whole summon on what I call queendom. And that's something different that takes time, and a lot of healing, and because we've both been through so much. So I think I just want to acknowledge that our self-worth and value is varied, and the idea for me is to stand in the middle of who I am across every area of my life and how I show up. So I'm the same person at home that I am in the community. I'm the same person everywhere I am. And my value is not based on anything this world can offer me. It is based on who I am and the gifts I have and what I'm here to do in life, my purpose. And it's core. And that takes time, right, to even accept or understand sometimes and acknowledge that and be comfortable with that in our lives, right? Because we're still guessing, sometimes ourselves, second guessing. And we don't believe we're as powerful and important and purposeful as we are, right? And we don't always recognize our gifts. We give them away to the wrong people sometimes, we take advantage. I mean, it's so much that we go through just trying to, and I know I'm not telling my elders nothing in this room, but that's where at least I've come to in my life. And my uncle told me this one thing, because I also like this introverted chick, believe it or not, I never really talked. I was like in my 20s, you couldn't tell the difference now, but he said he who controls the image controls the reality. So if I can tell you who you are, right, then I can control everything about you.
Right.
So I took that and said, well, you know what? I don't care what your title is, how much money you got, who you is, where you came from. In a sense of, I'm never under anybody. I'm never beneath you. I'm not a subset. I'm not an alternative. I'm not any of that. And I'm also not over you. Right? You gotta get comfortable with that part too. Because our value and worth can't be based on somebody else being beneath us either. I deal with power on 1 and 3 levels. Well, people do. We either have a complex of either power over, where we're comfortable being on top, in control, bossing somebody. They gotta be beneath us for us to feel comfortable. Power under, where we don't think we're enough, we're worth everybody else better than us because of what we don't have, we work from a space of deficit. Or power with. Well, I'm comfortable with you being as powerful as I am. I can share space with you, regardless. So I try to operate in a power with space. I'm not threatened by anything you bring. And I don't want you to be threatened by anything. Like, we're comfortable together in our power. So my worth and value is right there in that middle ground. And I'm not saying it's always there. I gotta check myself. They go up and down. Sometimes I'm like, okay, no, get your ego together, okay? Just calm down, you know. Or step it up. And so it's about trying to find that balance. So it's not a perfect space. I strive to stay in the middle, but sometimes I'm up here and sometimes I'm down there. And based on how I affect people, tells me my barometer of where I am. If I can serve people at my highest and lowest points, then my morals are probably in check. But whenever I am too high to serve, I've lost focus of what I am here to do. So that's just, sorry, I was holding back, so that's what I have.
All right, well, wait a minute, this is the last one. It's gotta be real quick. It's gotta be real quick for the 3 of you. I just want, so there's the power of 3 right now. So with one word, tell me what makes you strong, what makes you feel brave, and what makes you feel unbreakable. One word for each one.
God.
All right, amen. All right, Leticia, what makes you feel strong, brave, and unbreakable?
Vulnerability.
All right. Miss Stella, what makes you feel strong, brave, and unbreakable?
Well, Kenya said it when she said God, because that's me. I always, and faith in God, and belief in God. I meditate, I pray every day, put that mantle on because the whole armor, nothing can hurt you. Right, so God.
All right. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you so much for being a strong, brave, and unbreakable women. We need you. We need you.